Afternoon. Currently there is prasadam being served in the Haveli, so feel free to go there and honor some. Otherwise, there's food for the body, yes, but also there's food for the soul. Here in the temple room now we'll commence a class on the Bhagavad Gita, 5,000-year-old ancient scripture. So please do kindly attend if you can. We'll just be setting up over here, so if you could please make some space there. And those attending the class, if they would like to sit on this side of the room and face this way towards the speaker. Thank you very much for coming this Sunday afternoon, and we hope to see you again soon. Hare Krishna. Anything else you need? This is so. Anything else you need? That's okay. I would suggest you starting as soon as possible so people don't. Okay.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Please take a seat. If I could have your attention, thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this Bhagavad Gita class, chapter 6, verse 7. Chapter 6 is Dhyan Yoga. This is a Ashtanga Yoga practice, a mechanical meditative way which controls the mind and the senses and focuses on the Paramatma, which is the super soul in your heart. So the end result of this process, Ashtanga Yoga, which is the Dhyan Yoga, is the Samadhi in the yogis, which is a complete concentration on the super soul inside the heart, and a communion and a dialogue between the soul and the super soul. The great personality, the reincarnation of Krishna, Lord Kapila, he is the highest authority on the yoga system, and he explains the Astanga Yoga, which comprises of 8 different practices. Can you hear me okay if you put your... No? Okay. Is this any better? Is this better? Okay, all right. So I shall keep the mic close to me. So Astanga Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, chapter 6, verse 7. So that is what we are talking about. And I was talking about Lord Kapila, who is the reincarnation of Krishna, who is the highest authority on this yoga, explains Astanga Yoga comprises 8 different practices. So these are namely Yama, which is restraint, Niyama, which is following, the restraint is the things that we have to avoid, Niyama, the rules that we follow, Asana, the seating position, Pranayama, which is the breathing and the breath control, Pratyahara, which is the withdrawal of the senses, and Dharana, which is focusing on a single point, and then Dhyana, which is the awareness of only that single point, and then Samadhi, which is the complete state of concentration on the supersoul within the body. The practitioner of Astanga Yoga, those are great yogis of present and the past. And along the way in this Astanga Yoga, there are various mystic perfections which happen. So, and the yogis have to keep on progressing from each of these. So the yoga siddhis or the perfections, these are material arts. This is, one of them is actually Anima Siddhi, which refers to the power by which one can become smaller than an atom, as small as one can be. In another Siddhi, Lagima Siddhi, there is a development of the power to become so light that one can float in the air or on the water. A mystic yogi can travel even on the rays of the sun or the moon to different places. So these might look fantastic, but following the process, these are the siddhis which people achieve along the way. And there are various other siddhis, yoga siddhi and so on. And there's one particular siddhi, parikramaya, where one can achieve anything one he likes. So whatever you do, and vasita siddhi, where people can have the power to control other people. So this Astanga Yoga is a difficult process. As we can see, that gives great powers to the yoga, through the practitioner. And with great power come great temptations, and a lot of the yogis can succeed, reach the samadhi state, and some of the others fall away in different stages, and because of the strength of the powers that they have, and the attractions and the diversions which can come on the way. So in our tradition, the successful yogis, you must have all heard about Narad Muni? Yes? So Narad Muni is the head of our sampradaya, sort of where the Gaudiya sampradaya comes from. So in his previous life, he was born as the son of a maidservant. And by some good fortune, a great devotees came to stay in that household, and he offered his service to them with great devotion and attention. And by the mercy of these devotees who had come to visit, and for whom he provided different service. So then he was, in his next life, he was, became a perfected man comparable with himself only. Narad Muni is the Devarishi, or the chief sage amongst the demigods. He is the son and disciple of Brahmaji, and from him the disciplic succession in the line of Brahma has been spread. Naradji actually initiated great personalities like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, and many other devotees like Vyasadeva, who is the author of the Vedic literature, and from Vyasadeva, Madhvacharya was initiated, and thus the Madhva Sampradaya, and then from there the Gaudiya Sampradaya, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also came in that line. And then, of course, the great person, Srila Prabhupada was in that line of succession. So as I said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu belonged to this Madhava Sampradaya, and therefore Brahma, Naradji, Vyas, down to Madhava, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Goswamis of Vrindavan, and then from now on, Srila Prabhupada, we are in that disciplic succession. So, and Narad Muni is one of our great personalities. In Bhagavatam, there's a lot of mention about him in Bhagavatam. Narad Muni actually also instructed Lord Krishna's father Vasudeva, and he also instructed Maharaja Yudhishthira. So he is one of our great yogis who actually became a devotee of Narayana, Krishna. And then the other great personality that is a successful yogi for us is Badarayana, which is Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is known by various names: Krishna Dvaipanya, Satyavati Sutta, and so on. Vyasadeva, Veda Vyasa. Vyasadeva was a son of Mahamuni Parasara and mother Satyavati. Satyavati subsequently married Maharaja Shantanu, and Maharaja Shantanu is the father of great general grandfather Bhishma Dev. So Vyasadeva is a powerful incarnation of Narayana, and his books, he wrote many books to spread the Vedic wisdom to the world. Vyasadev's son was Sukadeva Goswami, and he spoke Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj in the last days of Parikshit Maharaj's stay in this world. And he is the author of the great epic Mahabharata, and also transcendental literature Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma Sutras, Vedanta Sutras, and so on. So along the way, he also was by the request of by Bhishma Dev and Satyavati, he got 3 children, and their names were Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. So a great personality. Perfection of Dhyan Yoga was by Kardama Muni, who is one of our great sages. And Kardama Muni was the son of Brahma, who had ordered his children to produce progeny to populate the world. So before marrying Devahuti, the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, Kardama Muni meditated for 10,000 years, and Lord Kapila was born from Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So along this Astanga Yoga process, the yogis that fall down, there is an example given in Srimad Bhagavatam 9.465 of great Rishi, great Muni, Durvasa Muni, who picked up a quarrel with Maharaja Ambrisa, who was a pure devotee of Krishna. So Durvasa Muni was a mystic yogi. He was a Yogeshwara, which is the master of mystic powers. A Yogeshwara can exhibit 8 kinds of siddhis, which have been described earlier. But we as Vaishnavas do not practice these processes, these powers, but by the grace of Krishna, a Vaishnava can defeat even the greatest mystic yogi. About the story about Durvasa Muni, so once Maharaja Ambarisa was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan, observing the vow of Dvadashi, which is the day after Ekadashi. And when he was about to break his fast, a Durvasa Muni appeared at his house. So Maharaja Ambarisa welcomed him greatly, and he invited him to share his prasadam with him after he had broken the fast. So Durvasa Muni accepted that invitation, and then he went to Yamuna river to take his bath at noontime. And being a yogi, he actually fell into a samadhi, and then he lost count of time. In the meantime, the time for actually breaking the fast was approaching, and the Brahmanas advised Ambarisa Maharaj to actually take a sip of water to actually observe the formalities, which he did. But Durvasa Muni was a is a realized personality as well. So he, by his mystic powers, knew exactly what had happened. And when he came back, he was very angry with Maharaja Ambarisha that he had actually broken the fast. But Maharaja explained what had happened, but he was getting very angry and he would not let go. And then in the end, he produced a demon from his mystic powers, which actually tried to attack Maharaja Ambarisha. At that point, Supreme Personality of God had released the Sudarshan Chakra, and it came and then it actually killed that demon which had been created and went after Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni went to different planets. He went to Brahmaloka, to Shivaloka, but none of them could actually save him. In the end, he went to the spiritual world, to Lord Narayana, and he said, "Please save me." And Lord Narayana said, "Look, you have offended a Vaishnava, and therefore there is nothing that I can do for you. You have to go back and actually seek the forgiveness of Maharaja Ambarisha." And then he sort of came back from the spiritual world, Durvasa Muni, and then as he went to Maharaja Ambarisha is such a Vaishnava personality. He sort of fell on the ground, he paid his obeisances, and he sought the forgiveness of Durvasa Muni, saying, "I must have said something to you to cause a great offense, and please forgive me." So he sort of reversed the course, and of course, that is the nature of the Vaishnavas, and great Vaishnava Maharaja Ambarisha ki jai. So another yogi which actually fell down was Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra we know from Ramayana. He was the rishi who was doing his yagyas in his ashram, but he was being bothered by the demons. So at that time he went to King Raja Dashrath, and he said, "Raja Dashrath, I have come here to seek your help. I need your two sons, Lord Rama and Lakshman, to come and actually protect his ashram, so him and his other yogis could actually carry out the process of carrying out the yagyas." Lord Dashrath, he said, "Look, I have got many armies, why don't you take those?" But Vishwamitra would not actually relent. In the end, Raja Dashrath, advised by Vashisht Muni, he sent his sons, and they kind of spent some time and then addressed the issues which the Vishwamitra and other yogis were facing in their Yagashala. And then Vishwamitra was actually born a Kshatriya. He was a Kshatriya prince, and he was out hunting, and somehow he went to Vashisht Muni's kutia, and Vashisht Muni actually welcomed him greatly and offered him various facilities. And Vashisht Muni used to have a great cow called forget the name, but Nandini cow, and somehow Vishwamitra wanted that, and he wanted to take that cow, but Vashisht Muni said, "Look, this is not possible." And then Vishwamitra went away, and he decided to actually do meditation, become a yogi, and get the powers which Vashisht Muni had, so he could get the same kind of blessings which he had in terms of the cow, this Nandini cow. So he spent a lot of time meditating on the super soul, and one day he was doing the meditation, and then somehow a heavenly apsara came with her ankle bells and disturbed his samadhi, and then basically disrupted the spiritual progress of Vishwamitra, and then that was one of his fall downs. So this lady was Menuka, and then they had a great, beautiful daughter called Shakuntala, which has been well known in the world history. So in modern times, some of the yogis that have fallen down is Rajneesh Yogi. He fell down because he believed the way to sense control was to exhaust the senses, but that obviously didn't work either. So Dhyan yogis focus on the super soul within. Supreme reality is in three forms, three aspects. So all-pervading Brahman, which is the Brahm Jyoti, a effulgence emanating from Lord Krishna's body. And then there is the super soul within us. And then the third aspect of the supreme reality is the supreme person living within the spiritual abode, which is Lord Krishna. So Bhagavan is the source of Brahman and Paramatma and is therefore, in a sense, one of them. So we ourselves are spirit souls, eternal fragmental parts of Krishna. Underlying nature of the soul is Sachidanand, which is eternal, knowledgeable, blissful, same in quality as Krishna, but different in quantity. So Jiva is trapped, the soul is our soul is trapped in a physical body which is made up of 5 elements: fire, water, earth, and ether. And then there is the subtle body which comprises mind, intelligence, and the false ego. So over various lifetimes, in various bodies, the mirror of our soul has been covered by impurities whilst trying to satisfy our material desires. Soul can only be happy if it is purified and aligned with the service of Krishna. So there is a story about a holy man who's sitting on the banks of Ganges. A young person approaches him and he says, "Look, I want to serve you and learn from you about the soul and the scriptures." The holy man welcomes the young man and he said yes, he would help him. The holy man asks him to fetch some water from Ganges for him and gives him a container. So the young man goes to the river Ganges, fills the water, comes back, and when he walks back, all the water has actually, the container is empty, the water has slipped away. So holy man asks him again to fetch the water. He does the same thing again. After many efforts, many times, the young man says to the holy man, "Look, the container has holes in it. How can I come to you with a container full of water?" And then the holy man explains, "Our material conditions has holes in it. We cannot retain much. If you look inside the container, you can see how clean it is. So in due course, as you spend time with me in devotion, your consciousness..." Hare Krishna. So as you spend time with me, that holy man says to the young man, your consciousness will purify and your focus will improve and you will learn to retain spiritual knowledge. So such is our condition in this world, soul covered by impurities and attention span which is shaky. Bhagavad Gita it teaches us many things. It is one of our core 3 scriptures, the other 2 being Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. These are all translated to English by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So of course there are many other books by Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas, ancient as well as current, and all of those have been translated into English. So there is a full, these are all full of nectar and available. So my name is Yadunath Das and I thank you for being here. So I will start with some chanting to invoke auspiciousness and offer prayers of gratitude. Please join me. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Gopijan Vallabha Girivaradhari, Jai Gopijan Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodhanandan Braj Janaranjan यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा बनचारी यमुना तीरा बनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा बनचारी यमुना तीरा बनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधा गोकुलानंद राधा गोकुलानंद श्री राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधा गोकुलानंद राधा गोकुलानंद श्री राधे जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय प्रभुपदा 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 शिला प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा 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 शिला प्रभुपदा गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल जय जय द्वैत स्वामी अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. So I'm grateful to have this opportunity to speak to you on verse 7 of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita entitled Dhyan Yoga. So Lord Krishna is instructing Arjuna, who is confused and bewildered. Arjuna's mind is bewildering him. So in the process, Lord Krishna explains the nature of Jiva, which is the soul, our soul, which is what we are in essence, and Ishvara, which is the Supreme Being, and talks about material nature, which is the Prakriti, and Kala, which is the time, and Kama. And Krishna teaches Arjuna and us relationship between them, between all five of them. So at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna that I have expressed my opinions, now what you do is your choice. So Lord never dictates to our free will. By our own free will, He wants us to come to Him. So please bless me that I may say something of use. And so I shall recite the verse 6.7 and then read the translation and the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita sitoshna sukha dukheshu tatha mana apamanyo. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When mind is misled by external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of Paramatma or the Supersoul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness, which is our Vaishnavas, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress and happiness, cold and heat. So this state is practical samadhi. So what our Krishna conscious Swamis do, they are in practical samadhi or a full absorption of the Supreme. Om Jnana Timrandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurudev Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evcha Patita Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namne namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasdi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So, Lord Krishna in this verse talks about conquering the mind and attaining the tranquility. So, uncontrolled mind can cause chaos as it can bamboozle our intelligence and send the senses into a spin. So, to establish a metrics, how fast the mind can travel. So, do you know what is the speed of light? Okay, speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. So which is about 10 million miles, 11 million miles per minute, and which is around about 660 million miles per hour. And some of the galaxies, planets are billions of light years away. So you can imagine the distances, how big this universe is, and how fast this light travels. Light is actually very disciplined. It always travels in a straight line, unless it is disturbed by, it can split into spectrum, or it can be deflected by another obstruction. But other than that, it is very disciplined. It travels in a single straight line. So our Shastras tell us that Narad Muni travels anywhere he needs to, anywhere he wants. He travels to the spiritual world and then he comes to our Earth, Bhuloka, and then he travels to the other lower planetary systems. So you can imagine what kind of speed Narad Muni would be traveling at. It's certainly faster than the speed of light, although science tells us the speed of light cannot be exceeded. So our mind obviously doesn't have the capability of Narad Muni, but it seems it can certainly travel as fast as light. Can you imagine it? It is, unless it is trained and controlled, it can take us into all kind of directions. Sitting here, I can think of being anywhere else. So that is my mind, how far it can go. So Kesha Maharaj, our Swamiji here, he has described the mind on one extreme. He's described the mind as a monkey which is mad. On top of that, the monkey is drunk, and on top of that, monkey has been bitten by a scorpion. So on one extreme, that is the condition of our mind. It slithers like an eel, is totally out of control. And you have probably seen this picture, the chariot, the horses, and the drivers. So this is described in Katha Upanishad. So our body is the chariot, and our intelligence is the driver of the chariot. The horses are our senses, and the reins are is the mind. So if the intelligence doesn't control the mind, the reins, then senses will go all over the place. So uncontrolled mind is a source of great disaster. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 verse 34, Arjuna pleads with Krishna, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramathi balvadridam tasyaham nigraham mane vayarev sudushkaram. So Arjuna says to Krishna, this mind is very restless, turbulent, strong, and obstinate. O Krishna, it appears to me that it is more difficult to control than the wind. And Srila Prabhupada explains that intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence, as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine. Such a strong mind, is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. So going to a holy place, sitting in a quiet place with the right posture, and meditating for many, many years, it is not something which is very practical. So, and then Lord Krishna, in response to Arjuna's point, he responds, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Ansashayam Mahabaho, Mano Dunirgraham Chalam, Abhyasentu Konteya Vairagyana Cha Grihate. So Krishna says, in the next verse, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. So that process Krishna talks in chapter 6, which is the Dhyan Yoga or the Astanga Yoga. And it requires the practitioner to control the mind and focus on the Supersoul in the heart, in a secluded place of pilgrimage, seated properly with proper breath control, and meditating over many, many years. So I have got a little write-up from Veda Base, which is our spiritual library. So this describes what the mind is. So what is the mind, and how can we conquer our mind? So in our spiritual library, it described the mind is a pattern-seeking, self-organizing system. So it's not logical, it just seeks patterns and he acts according to those patterns. Human mind does not think logically, it thinks in patterns, it seeks patterns and organizes itself according to the past patterns to perform on autopilot once these patterns have been ingrained in it. So the mind is by inherently lazy, and it prefers not to think. But Krishna has made this mind for a purpose to simplify our life so that we can devote more time to Him. What we put into our mind repeatedly through our senses, it forms an impression on our mind. So whatever goes into our mind, that forms the basis of a pattern. So once the patterns are set, then we don't have to make an effort to, as the mind takes over. For example, when you drive to work, you do not think which arm to use, which leg to use, which route to take. There's a pattern has been set, and the mind basically takes charge and then continues. So without realizing I'm driving to work, all the while I have a choice to think of Krishna or something else. So whatever impressions we put on this hard disk of our mind, it forms our samskaras. These patterns are the basis of our karma. So our thoughts, our habits, patterns, our attitude, beliefs and convictions form our karma, form the basis of our karma. Our mind is a bundle of our karmas. So, and the karmas result from the actions which the mind directs the body to take. So our vasanas, which are the desires in the form of a seed in the mind, which we are not even aware of. So these are the earliest incarnation of the desires. And then there are sankalpas, which is the desires that we have, that have sprouted from the seed, which we are aware of but have not expressed yet. And then there are the ichchas. These are all out in the open, and we have expressed them to others. So these three drive our karma, and if we think and speak and behave in a negative manner, forgetful of Krishna, we attract bad karma. And if we think, speak and behave positively, we get good karma. But Krishna wants us to go beyond karma and perform acts of yoga to be Jivan Mukta. So if we do a good deed and a positive karma, we still have to take birth again in this world to enjoy the benefit or the adverse effects of whatever we have done. So good karma or bad karma, Bhagavad Gita tells us, is not the ideal, is not the idea. It is to actually act in a way which is nishkama, which means that you are basically acting and behaving with Krishna at the center. So with that as the basis, whatever you do, that does not incur any karma and then takes us to the spiritual world. So I think for this we have to program our mind with patterns of remembering Krishna by chanting His name, performing all actions as an offering to Him, seeing Him in all hearts of all beings, and following the regulated principles which help us control our mind. So when these new patterns are ingrained in our subconscious mind, then there is no effort needed. The mind will take over and act on these patterns. So then Krishna in 647, so he describes what kind of people are dear to him. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate tantra atmana shraddhavan bhajate jumam same yukta tamomata. So Krishna, the translation, and of all the yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. So he is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So Srila Prabhupada explains, the culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. All other yogas, like Astanga yoga, are but means to come to the point of bhakti or bhakti yoga. Yoga actually means bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progressions towards the destination of bhakti yoga. So from the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma yoga, which is without fruitive results, is the beginning of the path of bhakti. So when karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, then you come to the stage called Jnana Yoga. So Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, we get to Gyan Yoga. When Gyan Yoga increases in meditation on the Super Soul by different physical processes, and the mind is on Krishna, it is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga Yoga and comes to the point of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Prabhupada says, factually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the path of eternal good fortune. So one who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress, and we talked about some of the yogis who fell down, is called by that particular name, Karma Yogi, Gyan Yogi or Dhyan Yogi, Raj Yogi, etc. So if one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered the culmination. Likewise, Bhakti Yoga. So somehow we see some Vaishnavas get their mercy and find our way to Bhakti Yoga and eternal good fortune. So please associate with the Vaishnavas. So I'll talk about mind and the senses a little bit more. So the human senses, as I explained, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, and sense objects are form, sound, smell, taste, touch. And mind is our 11th sense, and there are some various senses. And in Karma Yoga, it's explained, Indriyani manobuddhir asyadisthanam uchyate iter vimohayati esha jnanam avritya dehinam. The senses, the mind, the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust, which veils the real knowledge of the living entities and bewilders him. So real knowledge is, I am the spirit soul, eternal fragmental part and eternal servant of Supreme Lord. So when real knowledge is veiled, the soul thinks it is the body with a false ego and material interests and misfortune of karmic reaction stars. So when one's mind, intelligence, faith and refuge are all fixed on the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasures but is always in trance enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness as he concentrates on the Supreme. So Ashtanga Yoga is all about restraining our senses and then aligning them in the service of the Supreme. So, and then I think to actually control the senses, there are various processes, 9 ways of bhakti, which is Shravanam, which is the Krishna Katha that we are doing at the moment, Kirtanam, glorifying the Supreme Lord by singing loudly, Smarnam, remembering Krishna, Pad Sevanam, attending at the feet of Lord Krishna, Archanam, which is worshipping Lord Krishna, Vandanam, praying to Lord Krishna, and Dasyam, which is servitor to Krishna like Shri Hanumanji, Sakhyam, becoming a dear friend to Krishna like Arjuna, and Atma Nivedan, which is fully surrendering to the Lord like Ambarisa Maharaj or Bali Maharaj. So I think Krishna just wants us to do something. We are all grihasthas, so and it is not a matter of giving everything up and putting yellow robes on and then coming to do the service. So even in the station that we are, the ashram that we are in, which is the grihastha ashram, so there is a great good fortune to progress in the ashram that we are in. So Krishna wants us to do something, a little something. So Krishna says, if you offer me with love and devotion, a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So Lord Krishna is not very demanding. He just wants us to do something for him, something little, whatever we can, so but out of our own free will. So for us, it is, for the grihasthas like me and you, it is to associate with the Vaishnavas and do something, a little, whatever we can, to make some progress. So try to accept what is favorable for Krishna and reject that which is not favorable to Krishna. And I think in the end we all find that whatever is favorable to Krishna is actually in our great interest, is favorable to us. So I think I'm sure you know that Lord Chaitanya came to West Bengal, to Bengal in those days, about 500 years ago, and he could see the difficulties that people in Kali Yuga will be facing in terms of Ashtanga Yoga or even other practices of Bhakti Yoga. So he has made this process very much simpler. He said there is one way to actually achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is to chant the Mahamantra. He says, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, Kalav nasti, eva nasti, eva nasti, eva gati ranyatha. Chanting the holy name is the only way. There is no other way, no other way, no other way in this age of quarrel and dispute. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I thank you for your time. Is there anything you would like to add to it, say something, ask a question, or? But I thank you for coming, and please have a wonderful time, and thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.